lesson, we are going to be working on the distributive property. As always, there is a video guide to go along with it. So if you have printed it, pause, print the video guide, and come back. All right, so before we get started, we obviously need to know what the distributive property is and how to use it. I like to connect it to the word distribute, which a lot of us have seen. And I need to spell it right. There we go. Distribute, okay? Or like a distribution center. So if a company or person distributes items or merchandise, they pass it out to the different stores that are going to be selling that merchandise. So we're going to be using that concept in our math lesson today. We're going to be distributing or passing out different numbers to the terms inside of our parentheses, which is where our definition is going to come from. So on your guide, go ahead and write this down with me. The distributive property is the use of multiplication of a term outside the parentheses by all terms inside the parentheses. Okay. The multiplication of a term outside the parentheses by all terms inside the parentheses. Every single term inside has to get multiplied by the term outside of the parentheses. Okay, so we're going to be taking a look at some examples together of what this looks like. So let's take a look at number 1. The problem is 5, and then we have parentheses 7y plus 2. So here's what's going on. Usually we use the order of operations to go ahead and simplify what's inside the parentheses, and then we do the operations that are outside the parentheses. The problem with that is the terms inside the parentheses are not like terms, which we talked about a couple videos ago. Like terms have to have the exact same letter. 7y and 2 do not have the same letter, the same variable. So we cannot add those together, which means I cannot simplify inside my parentheses. That's where the problem comes in. So I still want to get rid of the parentheses, so to do that, I'm going to use multiplication, the distributive property. So our 5 on the outside, you'll notice it is right next to the parentheses. That has to be the case, okay? It has to be right up against it. And we've talked about if a number and a letter are right next to each other, it means multiply. The same thing goes with a number and parentheses. If it's right next to it, we're going to use multiplication. So we're going to multiply 5 times the 7y. So it's 5 times 7y. But we have to multiply everything inside the parentheses, okay? I said all terms in the parentheses, which means I also multiply 5 times 2. So 5 times 7y, we get 35y. 5 times 2 is a positive 10. Because it's positive, I put an addition sign to split the two terms, okay, to separate them. Now, if I look at this problem, 35y plus 10, I can't combine those. They are still not like terms. All right, this one has a y, this one doesn't. This is my answer. That is simplified as far as you can go. All right, you can't simplify this anymore, so you're done. This is not an equation. There's not an equal sign. You cannot solve for y. You are finished at this point. Let's take a look at number 2. For number 2, we have 7 parentheses 3m minus 8. Again, I cannot simplify inside the parentheses. They are not like terms. So we're going to do the distributive property. I'm going to distribute the 7 to both terms inside the parentheses. So here's what it looks like. We're going to take 7 and multiply it by the 3m. We're also going to take 7 and multiply it by, this is a negative 8. If it's addition, it was positive, positive 2. If it's subtraction, you make it negative. So 7 times 3m is 21m. 7 times negative 8 is negative 56. Remember I said over here it was addition because the 10 was positive? Well, 56 is negative, so I'm going to make it subtraction. This is our answer. Again, you cannot simplify because these are different. They don't have the same letter. 21m, there is no letter here, so I can't combine them. And we can't solve because there's no equation. So 21m minus 56 is our answer. It's as simple as you can get. Okay, let's look at number 3. For number 3, we have 9 parentheses negative 3k plus 11. Okay, we can't simplify inside the parentheses, so we use the distributive property. Multiply by the 9. We're going to have 9 times negative 3k and 9 times positive 11. Again, it's positive because it's plus. 9 times negative 3k is negative 27k. 9 times 11 is positive 99. Cannot simplify this further. They are not like terms, so this is my answer. Number 4. For number 4, we have negative 7 parentheses 6y plus 2. So it's a little bit different because we have a negative outside the parentheses, but the concept is still the same. We're still using multiplication to simplify this problem. I can't add 6y and 2 because they're not like terms, so I go ahead and multiply by the negative 7. I'm going to have negative 7 times 6y, and then I'm going to multiply negative 7 times 2. So negative 7 times 6y is negative 42y. Negative 7 times 2 is negative 14. Remember, if it's negative, it just means it's a subtraction. This is my answer. I can't simplify that further because they are not like terms and it is not an equation, so I can't solve it. Number 5. We have negative 8 parentheses 10h minus 4. Again, we're using the distributive property with a negative number. So we're going to have negative 8 times 10h and negative 8 times negative 4. Again, if it's minus, that means that it's negative when you're doing your multiplication. So negative 8 times 10h is negative 80h. Negative 8 times negative 4 is positive 32, so that means we put plus 32. And again, this is our answer. We cannot simplify from there. Okay, number 6. Our problem is negative parentheses, negative 15j minus 8. Okay, for this one, there's only a negative sign out in front of the parentheses, so it can be kind of confusing as to what that means and how do I work with it. Whenever that happens, it actually means that there's a 1 there, they just don't write it. Okay, so this negative means that this is a negative 1. They just don't put the negative 1 in there for us. I'm going to go ahead and draw it in because that makes it easier for me to have it outside of my parentheses when I'm looking at the problem. So really, we're going to multiply by negative 1 to both of our terms. So I'm going to have negative 1 times negative 15j and negative 1 times negative 8. Well, negative 1 times negative 15j is just positive 15j. All it does is change the sign for us. It doesn't change the number when we multiply by 1 or negative 1. And negative 1 times negative 8 is just positive 8. And remember, if it's positive, put an addition sign. I can't combine these because they're not like terms, so this is my answer. 15j plus 8. At this time, go ahead and pause the video, try those last two problems on your own, 7 and 8, and then come back to check your answers. Okay, the last two problems, 7 and 8, I asked you to do on your own, and here's the answers. For 7, again, just multiply both terms by 11. You should get negative 66w plus 55 for your answer. And then for number 8, you needed to multiply both terms by the negative 4. Your answer should be negative 36v plus 12. And that's the end of our lesson on the distributive property.